Welcome back to Comic Showcase, true believers. Seafarer's second trip through the history of the Marvel Universe brought us the Sentinel of Liberty, Captain America, Daredevil, the Man Without Fear, the sensational Spider-Woman, the mother of all crossovers, The Secret Wars, the best-selling comic of all time, X-Men #1, and the groundbreaking Young Avengers. Now, back in the present, what news will he find waiting for him?
God, I missed that narration. Internet, what have you got for me? What news have I missed? I couldn't have missed anything important, right? I mean, it's not like... Okay, I'm a little taken aback here. It's definitely good to be home after such a long journey through time, and I think my reaction to this news about Spidey being in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, finally, is justified, seeing as I behaved like one of Marvel's newest heroines on the block, who, by the way, is the total fangirl. Her name is Kamala Khan, and she's the second Miss Marvel. And yes, I am rationalizing my glee by turning it into a segue. You do it too if you were in my place. Let me have my moment. I suppose I should talk about how this character was created. When I first saw her, I thought it was neat that she took the Miss Marvel name from Carol Danvers, who was the original Miss Marvel until she became Captain Marvel, around the same time this new kid showed up. Fans like me thought she was a Carol Danvers fangirl, and we were right. I'm getting a wee bit ahead of myself. Stay tuned and I'll explain. Created by G. Willow Wilson and Adrian Alphona, Ms. Marvel #1 marks the first time a Muslim American heroine headlined her own comic. Before she debuted, most Muslim heroes were relegated to being supporting cast members in various books, notably the X titles. Though M is 10 Shades of Awesome, I'm here to talk about Kamala. Her conception actually came about through a discussion Marvel editors Stephen Wacker and Santa Amanat had. Amanat was telling Wacker about his experiences growing up in a Muslim American house. Wacker enjoyed the story and told the writer-artist team working on the book to make something along those lines, because a story like that just had to be told in print. I know, this sounds like a recipe for disaster, right? Still, I kind of wonder what Kamala would be like if she was an Italian princess. The sass would be through the roof, as if it wasn't already. Oddly enough, it isn't a disaster, as right out of the gate, the editors had the writers be very careful in showing a Muslim teenager in a Muslim house. With someone of the Muslim faith working on the book, and an editor who is Muslim too, the comic seemed to be in very good hands. The book, they said, was centered on Kamala's superheroics and her dealing with religious duties in her home, considering her parents were a wee bit conservative. However, it would not be preachy about the faith, and would handle everything with the utmost care. How is it handled? Let's take a look at Ms. Marvel #1 and find out. This cover is one of many, many variant covers I've found. I see the classic Ms. Marvel lightning bolt, and what I presume is our heroine with a clenched fist. She seems strong and sure of herself. Strange thing is, we don't see her eyes. Huh. Well, let me fix that with another variant. There we go. Now isn't that a little better? We have Carol cheering on the new kid. Now this is the cover I can get behind. The other one? Not so much. This one just grabs my attention because I like to see all of a character on a cover. This is one of those rare instances where the variant cover is better than the other one. That's just my opinion. We open in a Jersey City grocery store. 2 heroines visiting a grocery store in one retrospective? This has got to be a record. Let's just hope that this one's cleaner than the one Spider-Woman visited in the 70s. Then again, this takes place in Jersey City, so I can't make any promises. At least this one is open, and our teenage friend Kamala is eyeing some juicy, tasty, infidel meat. Her companion Kiki says there are other stuff she can try when the clerk spots someone off panel. A blonde teenager named Zoe enters the place, And man am I glad this comic doesn't come with a soundtrack because she is annoying. How annoying is she? Well, she tells the store clerk she'll have the usual when it's a grocery store. There's more in a second. Her boyfriend in the school team jacket asks the clerk if he's going to be at the party on the waterfront, and he hopes that the meathead quotient won't be too high. Jockey McJockstrap turns to Kiki and says that they should come if they're allowed to do that sort of thing. If your blood pressure isn't up yet, it's going to be in a couple seconds. Enter Blondie, who opens her big yap and says, "Your headscarf is so pretty, Kiki. I love that color. But, I mean, no one pressured you into wearing it, right? Your father or somebody? Nobody's gonna, honor kill you? I'm just concerned, you know." Ugh, Blondie, you really need to leave this comic. I'm on page 2, and I really want you to go. I know the writer's trying to illustrate the very real struggle. Bang up job, so points for that. Kiki doesn't give her an inch, and she and Jockey go off to probably find a brain they could use. Or a book on cultural sensitivity. Either would do. Once Muffy and Biff leave, the clerk, whose name is Bruno, says he doesn't like him, and Kamala says she's so nice. Oh, Kamala, honey, no, don't fall into that trap. At least her friend's got some sense and says that the blonde is mean. Kamala says she's adorable and happy. So young and so naive. Kiki says she's not allowed to defend Zoe. She's less tolerable than Kamala's sad nerd Avengers obsession. Sad nerd Avengers obsession? I have no idea what you're talking about. We cut to the Avengers taking out some evil space creature. Captains America and Marvel, along with Iron Man, are making short work of the Beast. Iron Man cries out, "Justice!" as the Beast falls. Both captains congratulate the Shellhead when suddenly Kamala is called for dinner. This is one epic daydream, like something I would come up with. It turns out she's checking on an Avengers fanfic she wrote, as it has 1,000 upvotes on freakingcool.com. Sad to say that site does not exist. I checked. Well, it's gotta be better than fanfiction.net. Her mom doesn't seem to understand that sentence. In fact, she doesn't even know what a fanfic is. I'm honestly too terrified to answer that question for you, lady. At the dinner table, we meet the rest of the Khan clan. We see Kamala's overly religious brother praying over every morsel of food. His dad's got a point. If you don't stop praying long enough to put food in there, he'd starve. He ignores it, and Mr. Khan says that if he spends all day praying, it looks like he's avoiding something. Like finding a job. Huh, I like this guy. The son says to his father that earning money from a profession that offends Allah has no merit. He refuses to profit from usury, unlike his dad. If I mouthed off like that to my dad, do you have any idea how fast I would have been kicked out? Oh my God, show some respect, kid, and get yourself a job, you bum. The mother says he'll find a job, and Kamala can't believe that they're having this conversation again. It's at this point where Kamala asks about the party that evening. He asks if there'll be boys there, and he shrugs it off. Kamala says she is 16 and plays the universal religion-crossing line that every teenager, male or female, has ever said. Don't you trust me? Her father says he does trust her. It's those boys he doesn't trust. I mean, they could be mutants, they could be alien shapeshifters. You don't know. Honey, what are the Avengers fighting this week? He seems to be concerned about the drinking more than, getting caught in an alien invasion or something. Now it's Kamala's turn to talk back at her father, just when I was starting to like him. He says Bruno is working hard, and he bets that he doesn't complain. Kamala says he's a boy, and he'd be allowed to go to that party. She asks to be excused, and her father says to stay up there until she learns some manners. She stomps upstairs and wonders about her lot in life. She wants to go to the party, just once. It isn't like she's going to do drugs. Am I reading an after-school special? The gist of it is that she just wants to be normal like the other kids. Normal is relative, kid. Normal in the Marvel Universe doesn't exist. Stealing her courage and swiping her Miss Marvel jacket, Kamala sneaks out, hoping to go to the party. At the waterfront, a group of teenagers listen to the greatest hit of the day. Boom, boom, shaka, shaka, boom, boom, shaka, shaka. I dare say that is going to top the Billboard charts. It'll be right up there with Shoop the Whoop. Way to avoid copywritten songs, Marvel. Kamala arrives and is impressed by the turnout. Zoe and the jocks of the Jersey Shore are talking and... oh no. Run, Kamala, run! Run away from the walking PR disaster! Run! Zoe spots her and says that she thought Kamala wasn't allowed to be near the heathens and was locked up. Zoe, I don't normally say this to comic book characters, but I hope Galactus steps on you. Jockey, the human jockstrap, offers Kamala a drink, and she asks if there's alcohol in it. He says, nah, just orange juice, along with vodka. His friends laugh as she spits it out. Smooth. Thankfully, Bruno steps in, and the guy backs off. Zoe says she's going to go since Kamala smelled like curry. Hey Wade, how you doing? Yeah, remember that thing from way back? Yeah, that. Listen, it's time to call in the favor. Bruno wants to know what she's doing here and if her parents know where she is. He wants her to leave before something happens to her, and Kamala says Bruno's acting just like her dad. In fact, if he were Pakistani, her dad would throw her at him. Not with his bad back, I hope. It looks like someone has a crush. Kamala storms off and sees a blue mist rising from across the river in Manhattan. Okay, raise your hands if you know what happens next. The mist rolls over the crowd of drunken teens, and Zoe's like, are we getting West Nile or something? Oh god, someone smite her. Please. Bruno calls for Kamala, and she's walking along the waterfront, still in a huff. The mysterious fog still lingers over her as she says she can never be one of them, since she has weird food rules and stuff. She then gets dizzy from the fog and wonders if you can get drunk from one sip that you spit out. She looks at her hands and sees triple, and declares that she must really be drunk, or high on that mist. Speaking of that, it gets to be too much for the young lady, and she passes out. Kamala stirs when a spotlight flashes on the teen. A voice wants her to wake up, and she groggily asks who's there. She looks up and sees Captain Marvel, Captain America, and Iron Man, along with birds wearing hats. The characters are saying some nonsense. The yellow mustard is blooming in every field? What? That is some serious tripping. By the way, that mist is called the Terrigen Mist. It's what gives the Inhumans their special powers and abilities. It, also gives them mind-expanding highs. Kamala wonders if they're speaking Urdu, and they say that they're speaking the language of beauty and hardship, and apparently Terrigen Mist highs. No wonder the Inhumans are so secretive. They don't want to share their stash. Iron Hallucination says that Kamala is seeing what she needs to see, where her life is at a crossroads. Captain Hallucination then says that she thought that by disobeying her parents, her classmates would accept her, and asks what happened. They of course laughed at her. Well, Zoe did. Annoying kid will probably grow up to be a reporter on Fox News. Kamala continues by saying Zoe thought it would be okay to make fun of her and her family because she snuck out and kicked them to the curb. However, that wasn't why she snuck out. She says her parents are dumb, and that she grew up in Jersey City, not Karachi. She doesn't know who she wants to be, and Hallucination Marvel asks, well, who do you want to be? The kid replies, she wants to be beautiful, awesome, and less complicated. She wants to be like Carol. She wants a power-stealing mutant to take away her powers too. Adorable. Okay, I shouldn't make fun of that moment, because that's actually kind of sweet, and shows just how much standing Carol Danvers has in the Marvel Universe. Girls in that universe probably look up to her and the other heroines with good reason. Here's hoping it transfers to the real world. Back to the tripping. Kamala adds that her costume would be the classic politically incorrect costume with wedge heels and such. Yeah, that costume. Night Carol says her wish will be granted. She'll get the reboot and makeover people have dreamed about. Ah, but there's a catch. It's not going to turn out the way she thinks. Iron Hallucination wishes her well, and the trip starts to end. The mist clears, and Kamala Khan is left standing on the sidewalk, wondering what happened. She walks away and suddenly finds herself trapped. She seems to be in a cocoon and cries for help. What's she going to do? We're almost done the comic, and all we learned was that her classmates are jerks, and her parents are overbearing. A gloved hand bursts out of the shell, and suddenly we see Carol Danvers in her Miss Marvel costume? What? The dust settles and Kamala takes a look at herself, and our comic ends with Kamala wondering if it's too late to change her mind, and if time's run out on that new fanfic idea she had. It sure has, Miss Khan. You just became part of a bigger universe. You just don't know it yet. Let's take a closer look at this comic. I think it's fair to say that this comic was written for the trades in mind, like many first issues are nowadays. We don't see Kamala in costume fighting bad guys. That does happen later though, and she gets strange shape-shifting powers thanks to the Terrigen Mist Bomb. Instead, we get a peek at her psyche and what she has to deal with on a daily basis growing up in Jersey. Is this really what happens in Muslim families? I'm not sure. I can only say that it's a well-thought-out piece that thankfully doesn't make the characters into stereotypes. It's a story with good art, and sometimes it can be a good thing to drag out the first arc so it doesn't seem rushed. The comic needs to find its footing and establish the characters and the setting. We find out a lot about Kamala's backstory, and I think that's important, given that her character is a minority. You always want to handle minority characters with the utmost care, respect, and try very hard not to make them stereotypical. Now, is Kamala a stereotype? No. Is her family stereotypical? My gut says no too. Some Muslim parents can be like this from what I've learned. If anyone's a stereotype, I'd say Zoe and her boy toy are. Then again, some people are like that. I've talked about this character with my friends at the Comic Book Issues Facebook group, and we concluded that Kamala is cut from the same awkward teenage mold that Peter Parker was when he first debuted. Peter was to nerdy teenagers then, as Kamala is to teens in the present. Some teens now write fanfics, go to parties, and gush over everything nerdy and awesome. She even squealed a bit when she first met Spidey and asked him how he thought she was doing. Spidey says she reminds him of a certain webhead who always wondered how he was doing, and he thinks she's doing great. And thus the torch was passed to a new generation of superheroes. And this is why I love Spidey so much. This is also why fans all over the world love Miss Marvel. She speaks to a generation raised in the internet age, writes fan fiction, gushes over superheroes, and has a lot of snark. She is basically what would happen if a comic fan suddenly got superpowers and did all this hero work. Kamala just brings a sort of innocence peppered with snark that makes it easy for people to get hooked on her story. It's for this reason that I recommend checking out Miss Marvel at any comic store. It's fun, entertaining, and there's just something about this book that makes it really fun to read. You don't have to take my word for it. Check it out yourself. Muslim advocacy groups, such as Muslima Media Watch, have also said that the comic normalizes this idea of the American experience as Muslim. The character, they feel, brings something new to the pop culture portrayal of Muslims in a post-9/11 world. And considering she is written like a teen born after the events, it's important to show the culture in a positive light, and I honestly think it does that job very well. Not to mention I am forever grateful that the book doesn't read like an after-school special. In the end, Kamala Khan comes off as any troubled teen would, regardless of any background. And I can definitely see where the comparison to Spidey's teenage origins come from. Marvel struck gold when they created the Wallcrawler, and it's my belief that they did so again in creating another teenage hero who was ready to take her place among the legion of Marvel's heroes, mutants, monsters, and Marvels. She may not be the first teenage hero Marvel has had. She has come from the same mold started so very long ago, and I for one want to see where she goes from here. My second retrospective covering Marvel's past has officially come to a close. I hope you've enjoyed it, and...
Halt, yon Marvel fanboy of bias so clear and true!
What? Who said that?
Over here, buddy.
Oh, it's you.